Up against a blue wall at times there. How in the end did you pick your way through it?
Yeah, we just had to be patient. We said at half-time just to keep moving the ball, try and get it out wide. And the spaces will open up as they got more tired. And yeah, we kept knocking on the door. Thankfully, we got a couple chances, a good clean sheet at the back, and a really good win.
Was the key, Pierre, in that first half? Don't get frustrated. Harry's talking there, you said at half-time, calm, patience, words like that.
Yes, especially when you're playing every 3 days, every 4 days, you need to be able to maintain first of all the level of focus, but after also doing the right things all the time. And I think today, over time, we kept doing the right stuff, and we benefited from it in the end.
Good little battle with Jordan Pickford tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. He made a couple of good saves and then obviously just snuck the penalty past him. So, yeah, look, happy to get on the score sheet again, happy to win. It's been a tough week, loads of games. We've got another one in a few days. So, recover well and then get ready for Wednesday.
With the penalty, firstly, the award, once he spills it, do you just know that maybe he's going to be panicking a bit and the contact's coming?
Yeah, firstly, I'm trying to just knock it past and score an open goal, but he kind of just, I think I was on his blind side, he just dived out and took me out. So probably a bit unlucky from his point of view, but yeah, I was there to take it.
Normally, we all think it's automatic that you'll score a penalty, but I just guess maybe after midweek and the fact it's Jordan Pickford, a few more doubts. Did it feel a bit different?
Yeah, look, I think whenever you miss a penalty, the next one is the most important one because you have to make sure that your head's in the right space. Obviously, I've practiced so many against Jordan. I feel like I'm coming up against a lot of English keepers this season. So, yeah, it was nice to get that one in, and it was a really important goal for us.
And Pierre, for you, I cannot believe you walked into this room and asked, was it an own goal?
No, I think the ref was doing some jokes, so I was convinced it wasn't, but I don't know what the official says.
He needs to learn, Harry, doesn't he? Claim everything.
Absolutely. It was going in. It was going in, wasn't it?
It's my goal. End of story.
He's convinced. Was it his goal?
Yeah, it's his goal. You know, he had a nosebleed even travelling that far forward. But when he got in there, he's nice and calm, wasn't he? You know, Bentancur makes a great pass into him. He takes it down, shifts it to the side. Yes, it gets a deflection off Iwobi, but yeah, it's Højbjerg's goal for me.
In the end, how big a win was that for Tottenham?
Yeah, huge win. It could have been difficult. In the beginning of the game, I thought it might be difficult. It's even more difficult at half-time, you know, when the crowd's starting to feel a little bit of grumblings in there, a little bit frustrated the way the team are playing. But Everton just absolutely played into their hand because Richarlison had to come off. I'm not sure Conte would have made that move, but it helped him out. Basuma went in the midfield, got another body in there, pushed, obviously, Sonny a little bit closer to Harry Kane, and they never had any answer to it, Everton. They were really disappointing, Liam.
Why didn't they have the answer, Leon?
Well, I'm sure that's something that Frank Lampard will be trying to identify. I mean, Everton looked like they'd worked tirelessly this week on playing against a 3-4-3 system, how to thwart Tottenham, how to work and get their angles and shuffle across. And once that change was forced upon Antonio Conte, I mean, he could have brought Lucas Moura on and gone three up still, but he changed the system. Everton had no plan B. Everton didn't know what to do. They didn't know the distances anymore. Suddenly players were in different positions than they'd practiced on working, closing down through the weekend. There was nobody out there to say, well, I'll tell you what, let's do this or let's do that. And in that 10 or 15 minutes after that change, Tottenham just seized control of the game in possession, in territory, in chances, and the goal came.
Are you surprised with that inability to adapt?
Yeah, I suppose I am.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you're a professional footballer, you should be able to make decisions like that on the field. You should, with your teammates, you know, you instantly making decisions, and I don't think I saw that there for Everton.
OK, let's have a look at the two goals, starting with the penalty and the incident itself. Two England colleagues going head-to-head. What do we think, Tim?
Well, it was a poor mistake from Pickford. You know, Tottenham have got bodies in the box, keep it alive, and it comes off him, the shot. It was a tame shot, comes off Pickford. He should be able to grasp that one. And Harry's just alive. You know, he gets there before everyone else, just toes it past him, and he collides his head into Harry's thigh. And the referee gives the correct decision. But nice and sharp from Harry Kane, you know, a lot sharper than Connor Cody there. And he just gets there. But Pickford is a poor goalkeeping error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've praised Jordan Pickford before the game and for some saves he made in this game, but that's your bread and butter. Those things, your defence is relying on, your defence is working so hard in front of you to make sure the efforts that come at you are of that quality. You should be able to wrap them up all day long. Wasn't the case, and from that moment when that goal comfortably, it seemed, into the back of the goal, Everton just didn't respond at all.
Yeah. Big penalty, considering what happened in midweek.
Yeah, I mean, he's got this knack of just forgetting the poor and always remembers the positive. I mean, that's the third penalty in the Premier League he's had against England colleagues.
Yeah.
You know, he's had it at Henderson, he's at Ramsdale, and now the main man, Pickford. So he missed one against Henderson. He bounces back. I mean, not even Antonio Conte would suggest Harry Kane comes off penalties. It wouldn't be worth his life.
The second goal came from Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. In fact, the finish was a pretty smart one in the end.
It was, and you know, it was mentioned in commentary the freedom that Bentancur and Højbjerg got with the introduction of Basuma. You see Basuma on the left, and now you see Bentancur down the right, making that overlapping run. Harry Kane waited for him. It's a brilliant ball into him, into that space, and he showed great composure once he got in there to take that touch, take his time, send Alex Iwobi off the wrong way and just place it calmly into the corner.
See, the two midfield players are bursting forward. If you look at the back of the picture there, you've got Basuma in the centre of the pitch. Now, that protection's there because of the forced change, what they had to make. So it allowed these players to go forward and express themselves. They're capable of doing it, but for a large part of this season, they've been restricted. But that's the way Conte wants to play. And how can we knock it? The best start they've had in the Premier League for a very long time. And look, is he happy? I suggest he is.
Just a little bit. Now, look, at 0-0, it was all to play for. And Richarlison was always seen as being one of the pivotal points of this game, considering he was facing his former side. But he made a telling effect, and not the way that many of us would have expected. He came off injured. On came Yves Bissouma. From then on in, it prompted a tactical switch, which took the game away from Everton. Explain to me how this happened.
Well, it releases, like I say, it releases Bentancur to get more freedom to go and support the front players. Højbjerg at times would do exactly the same. And I just think they got more bodies into the box, get into wide areas. Look, they can attack the dangerous area. And now all of a sudden, the three centre-backs of Everton are being asked questions. There's someone up against them. You know, I think this is in the first half, and I think it was Tame they had to keep coming back out. They keep going out. But in the second half, when they made the change, it was a lot easier. You know, a lot easier to get Sonny up in support of Harry Kane and more bodies into the box. So, you know, I just think it worked in their favour, Tottenham. It really did. And for Son, it's a relief. It's a relief because he hasn't got to keep running back with the wide players of Everton. He can stay in the forward areas and occupy the centre half.
If you could see it from here, Leon, why couldn't Frank?
Oh, that's the question. I mean, we're looking from, you know, a tactical camera high up. It's a lot easier to see the game from a bit of height, but what defenders want is attackers standing up against them. They can see the attacker, they know exactly where it is. What's more difficult for defenders is runners coming from all over the place. They can't see them coming. And as we mentioned and just showed there, once Basuma came and sat in the middle of the field, Bentancur was making runs, Højbjerg was making runs, the wing-backs were making runs, all beyond the front two of Son and Kane. And Everton's defenders, from seeing everything in the first half, suddenly didn't know which way the runners were coming from. And it just created so much space for Tottenham to start playing the football in, and they exposed that Everton defence.
It was key for Spurs, and so they have now registered 23 points from their first 10 league games of a season. It's their best return of any league campaign after 10 games. What do you think of that, Tim? I mean, could it have gone any better?
Well, a lot of green on there and very impressive. But I want to be a little bit cautious. I mean, let's have a look at the teams that they beat. If they would lost to any of them teams, we'd been very, very disappointed. They drew with Chelsea where they got totally outplayed and they equalised in the 96th minute. They got outplayed in the North London derby, which was very emotional for everyone concerned. And they drew at West Ham, we're a half-decent side. You know, I'm not saying they're fantastic, but the rest of the teams that they beat, listen, we know it's very difficult to win maximum points in the Premier League. But with them teams who are on paper there, what we're looking at, with the green on it, with the W's, I think they should beat them sides. So let's stay very cautious at the moment. Right, it's only a start.
So you're holding back, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. Leon?
Yeah, well, look, there'll be bigger tests for Spurs coming up. However, if you go into these bigger tests with that win ratio behind you, with all that green on the board, you're full of confidence. You're feeling good about yourself. You fancy taking on anybody in the next game because you've got this history of winning games. So, you know, yes, they are games they're expected to win. Yes, they're games, if they'd not won their home games in particular, you'd be disappointed. But now they go into Manchester United away feeling full of confidence that, you know, joint second in the Premier League, go playing Newcastle at home, and a team that are actually playing really well, but Spurs will fancy taking them on in that game.
You talk a bigger test to come. They got 5th and then 6th immediately on the horizon, Manchester United and then Newcastle before Liverpool a couple of games later.
Well, that's the game for me. The Man United game's the next one. So
on Wednesday.
Always the most important. We know they're on a little bit of a upward curve. And then the Liverpool game. The remainder of them games, I suggest they would possibly look to get maximum points.
I just wonder, they're doing things in a rather functional manner, our Spurs. Does that lack of flair, does that frustrate you a little bit or not?
It frustrates me a little bit, but why? It's impossible to criticise. You know, they've lost one game all season. You know, why are they in the Premier League? Why they're winning? You know, a manager's never wrong when your team wins. We saw Jose had a pretty decent start, and there was a few grumblings about the performances. Now, that starts to get louder and louder when the results go the wrong way. Now, a few of them games, certainly the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge where they got outplayed, it could have been 3-4-5, but they stuck in the game, and that's what Antonio wants. He's not there to entertain, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. He's been brought to the football club to win football matches, and you know, it's not his fault. I would suggest he doesn't change. He knows how to win. He's a serial winner wherever he's been. This club needs a trophy, and it needs it desperately. So let's not complain. When I was at the football club, there was always a criteria where we had to play a certain way. I remember the chairman asking me once, we won 3 games on the spin, he's asking me, why are the team not playing so well? I wouldn't think he's asking Antonio Conte that, because I think he'd know the answer.
I mean, Antonio Conte has a set way of playing that he won't change. There's no doubt about that. And talk about the Spurs way of playing, but they're winning games. However, he opened himself up for criticism in the game they lost. At Arsenal, he played the exactly same way. And after that, he come under some heavy criticism. Despite their record before, despite their record after, it was a very negative way that Antonio Conte played. And should Spurs play that way, he didn't change. He didn't suddenly say, well, I'm going to have to listen to the crowd, or I'm going to have to listen to the press, and I'm going to have to change the way. He knows he'll come in for criticism if they don't win, but at the moment they're winning.
We did speak before the game, with all eyes on Richarlison, about that front three, not having seen them gel in the same game, and obviously his involvement was cut short because of the injury. Yeah. Is that still something that there's 1 or 2 question marks over for you right now?
No, I mean, the main man is Harry Kane, and he's got 9 goals now. I mean, he wouldn't be. It's one of his best starts. You know, Harry won't be complaining. And if you keep the main man happy, then everyone else keeps happy. I mean, it took Sonny a little bit of time to get into a rhythm this season. I think Antonio might learn from that period when they went to 3 in midfield and push on a little bit more central, closer to Harry Kane, where they can combine. We know they're telepathic, their relationship. Yeah. I think at the moment, as much as Kulusevski started so well and Richarlison's come to the club and he's done well and they play 3 up top, I think from Man United onwards, they might go with Basuma in the midfield with Højbjerg and Bentancur and get Son up in support of Harry Kane. I think it's a more attractive way of playing. I think certainly the front players would enjoy that a lot more.
Yeah. On Everton's perspective, I suppose, they'll be looking back at that first half as to what could have been. Because for that 45 minutes, the game plan worked to a T, did it not?
It did, but when you go into a quality team like Spurs, who are near the top of the league and have the players that they do, you have to take one of these 2 chances. You have to give yourself something to defend, and that's an excellent chance. He had an opportunity, if he'd needed to be, to tap it to Mopé for maybe an opportunity for a tap-in, but he did brilliantly initially, Gray, getting into that space. Yes, there was a little bobble. Yes, it comes off his shin rather than, you know, the laces that I'm sure he was aiming for. But, you know, Frank was, as I said, worked hard this week to stay compact, play up against the system that Spurs are playing, and maybe get these opportunities. They didn't take them in the second half. Everton just didn't turn up.
Yeah. Well, that's back-to-back defeats against 2 pretty stringent tests, Manchester United and now Tottenham. Where are we with this development? Because not that long ago, they're unbeaten in 6.
Yeah, and, you know, that progression Everton showed in that period, I was quite pleased with. I saw a team develop, and I saw a team being difficult to beat, a team with a pretty good defensive record, a team that weren't creating as many chances as they want, but building from the back. I can see where Everton are going. But I think the disappointing game more was last week against Manchester United at Goodison Park, a chance to get out of Manchester United team who'd just lost the Manchester derby by 6-3. And Everton laid off them in that game, and Manchester United showed the quality. They went to Spurs and did the same. They sat off Spurs, and Spurs eventually showed the quality. So I hope Frank Lampard sees something in that maybe Everton are on a team that can sit off, because on the counter-attack, they're not taking those opportunities.
What are they? What are Everton, Leon, in your opinion? What's the objective this season?
Well, at the start of the season, having witnessed how poor Everton were last season, I was just hoping to stay in the Premier League. Now I'm looking for mid-table. I'm looking for progression.
Yeah.
The times have gone for Everton going for European football. I think if Everton can just get steady mid-table this year, look like they're progressing somewhere, maybe have a cup run. Everyone wants a cup run. I'd be quite pleased.
But that group of players, when you look at that group of players, what he has, even the players coming off the bench, the ones who get back to fitness, they should not be struggling to stay in the Premier League, and I don't believe they will.
No, but don't forget as well, 2 of that starting 11 have only been carried over from that 5-0 defeat to Spurs, which goes to show the huge turnover of players in that time.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of time to settle in, but Everton look a lot more secure throughout the spine of the team, which certainly wasn't the case last season.
OK, let's get some post-match reaction now, shall we, from the Spurs dressing room. So it's their best ever start to a league season. Let's get the thoughts of their manager. Here's Antonio Conte.
It was looking like it might be a frustrating night. What was the key in the end to making it a successful one?
But I think that we have to be really happy because in my opinion we played a good game. We created a lot of chances, and we had an injuries during the game with Richie, and for sure this situation could create something of negative into the team. Instead, we found the right solution with Bissouma, with 3 midfielders, and with Sonny and Kane, the only 2 strikers. But I like the attitude, the behavior. We started the game very well. I think maybe in the first half we had to pay more attention because we considered to counter-attack, and I think in these 2 circumstances we could do much better. But at the end, I think we deserved the win. We played a good game. I think that our fans enjoyed this performance, and we have to continue this way.
That substitution you made, obviously it's because Richarlison was injured, but you could have gone a different way. You could have bought maybe a like-for-like replacement on in Mora. You didn't. You put Bissouma on for the extra midfielder. What was the thinking, and how did it then affect the game? Because it seemed to work straight away.
No, I think that for sure we have a to system that I know very well, and to play with the 3 strikers, so with the 3 midfielders, the 2 strikers. And for sure in this moment, Lucas, don't forget, he was absent for a long period, and now he's trying with training session to find a good physical condition to be more fit. I had another option with Gil, but at that moment I think Bissouma was the best solution for us. Also because we are talking a player that in this situation he enjoyed to play in front of the central defender with the 2 midfielder with him. Not
just because of the points return after 10 games, but the changes that he can make from the substitutes bench. And we saw a couple of the subs, combining for that second goal.
Well, he's got a real depth in his squad now. That the substitutions he made today, those players that are out injured, and we're talking about the style that Spurs are operating with. They still had over 20 efforts at goal. They are still creating chances. They are still giving Kane and Son in particular the opportunity to score goals. So he'll be happy. We mentioned at half-time that Spurs may be disappointed with the first half display, but we also knew that Antonio Conte wouldn't. No. He's got to half-time at 1-0. The opposition are 1-0. The game is 45 minutes to go, and he'll always fancy his team's chances to create opportunities, and the difference is when you've got a Son and a Kane.
Yeah.
More often than not, you actually score those chances.
Do you think Conte feels the pressure that he'd like to get a win, it kind of nipped in the bud before City and Arsenal played tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to keep the pressure on. I don't think he's worried about what City and Liverpool and Arsenal are doing. He needs to concentrate on his own team. If he wins in the domestic trophy this season, or the Champions League, which is very difficult, we know that, I don't think he's going to win the Premier League. A trophy will be a massive success. It's been a very long time. He's the right man to be able to achieve it.
I just wonder, from that graphic we saw earlier, the sea of green with the wins, the 7 from 10, but that red happened to be against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Is that the one thing that keeps Tottenham fans and the club a little bit honest right now and not too carried away, like you said?
Absolutely. I mean, as well as we're doing, Arsenal are doing a little bit better, and the Tottenham fans, as long as they wouldn't admit it, they would rather be watching that brand of football and Mikel Arteta and Tottenham, the Arsenal players are delivering. But if Antonio Conte can instill this consistency and continue to get the results as he's done everywhere he's been, then I'm sure they're going to be happy with the end product, which hopefully will be the finishing table with us above Arsenal. But at the moment, I wouldn't hold my breath because they're going very, very well. But Tottenham are doing their own way. I mean, it's different ways to play football. There's no right or wrong. We're not criticising for it. It was just an observation that it's not the most attractive we've seen over recent seasons.
Are they where you expected them to be right now, Spurs?
Yeah, at the start of the season, with the players they brought in, I did say I fancied Spurs to be in the top 4. So being second, joint third in the Premier League right now is probably where I expect them to be. I think they look strong. I think they look like they can keep this consistency up for the majority of the season, which is what you expect of Antonio Conte and his team. I think with Antonio Conte, he's been there. He's been there with the ups and the downs. He's won the Premier League. He knows there will come a time in the season where his team probably have a bad run, a poor run, and he's going to have to find a way of getting them back on side. But he's a very experienced manager, and